Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast, where we focus on optimizing the well-being and best practices of insurance and financial professionals today. On this show, our objective is to help you optimize your life, optimize your profession, and learn from other optimized advisors. I'm your host, Scott Heinela. We hope you enjoy the show. So I do mean that, by the way. I was very impressed with your breakout session, which I know you've done many of them. So I'm sure you have the script down quite well.
Which breakout was that?
Well, you probably did multiple at Riskalyze, right? I mean, you didn't just have the one.
That's right. Well, I did one and I did a main stage. That's right. You're reminding me now. You were,
okay,
you were
the
there.
breakout I did at Riskalyze. I attended that.
You know, it's so funny. That was the second time I gave that specific breakout. And I remember finishing thinking, that was not my best work. Mm-hmm. And then you hear people like you are like, that was awesome. And it's that perfectionist mindset that kills me sometimes.
Well, it helps to be knowledgeable in your craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're not 100% prepared, you're still pretty damn prepped.
Yep. You can pull it out.
100%. So anyways, without further ado, thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the Optimized Advisor podcast today. As you and I discussed kind of pre-game, the objective of these episodes is to help advisors optimize their practice, optimize their life, and learn from other optimized advisors. I say that because a little bit of a play on the word. I'm going to give you a big compliment and kudos here that I think we're tackling a few aspects in our objective and our business plan with the podcast. And one is certainly helping advisors optimize their craft and their practice through the content that we're directly going to talk about today, but also playing with the words a little bit and calling you an optimized advisor in the sense that I'd love for you to explain and share with the audience your new endeavor and that you are now an entrepreneur and a business owner. So welcome to the team, so to speak.
It is a wonderful and very complex team. And I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Diana Cabrices.
Diana Cabrices.
That's right. Let's if you can enlighten the audience of where you came from, what your expertise is, and what you are beginning to embark upon now in your professional life.
Yeah, I'd love to share. So I'll start as far back as when I entered the industry back in 2016. And I was actually at a point in my life where I had graduated college, I sold all my stuff, I moved abroad, and I needed a way to be able to work remotely for the US while supporting my life of traveling and, just really being a free bird at the time. And I stumbled upon fintech. So that's sort of my fintech origin story, which is it was not intentional. And I put up a posting online that, hey, I have some skills. I'm good at sales. I've been selling, since I was 15 years old, since my very first job. And I graduated with a degree in economics. And, I'm putting myself out there to see what I get back. And I got back a job opportunity at a company called Succession Link, which at the time and still today helps advisors plan for succession, plan for continuity, look at M&A opportunities, and really just network with one another. And that was my start to the industry. And that was a fun ride. I really got my foot in the door, Scott, by all day long. I was in a business development role all day long calling financial advisors. And I would call them and I would learn their language. And some of them would talk to me for an hour, which I'm sure advisors love to talk. We all love to talk. And I started to pick up, okay, these are their behaviors. These are their needs. And a few years later, I was at a conference and I stumbled upon an amazing company called Snappy Kraken. And their entire brand was about marketing for financial advisors on autopilot. And I was really intrigued because over the conversations I had in the succession world for advisors, I realized, God, advisors never want to retire. They love what they do. They can really put their business on autopilot in a lot of ways. And I think I want to move into a different space. I think I want to move from, the technology side of succession and M&A to the marketing and branding side. And that was the best decision I could have made because over the following 3.5 years, I led the charge on a lot of different areas of the business. I was vice president of enterprise development. I worked with some of the most top-ranked, largest RIAs, broker-dealers, IMOs in the space, supporting advisors. And I really got to understand the importance of content creation, consistency, personalized experiences for that end investor. Now, that was an amazing ride, as I mentioned. And I would say about a little less than a year ago, Scott, I started to get an itch. And this itch was, okay, you're at a point in your life now where you're still not married, you don't have kids, and you know that you want to be as well-rounded as possible. Maybe it's time to make a pivot again. And that was a really hard decision, but I had discovered this business function in the world of technology, and really in any company, but mostly in technology, around evangelism. And that word for many people, Scott, means religion. It means the church. But there's a secular side to the function in business. And I had realized, oh, okay, over these years of working at these companies, I have been evangelizing. I've been going out, being that spokesperson. They've wanted to leverage my voice, my communication expertise, my style, my personality. I've done all the webinars. I've done all the traveling across the country. I mean, I was, I say second to the CEO at Snappy Kraken, but really the truth is I was first to the CEO at taking up all the speaking opportunities. And I just found this right here, out of everything I've ever done, out of all the hats I've worn in fintech, serving advisors, this is what I love the most. There was also an aha moment there, Scott. Over the years, I'd have wealth tech, fintech CEOs come up to me after a session. Hey, how much do we need to pay you to do that for our company? Because we just saw the way you engaged those advisors and you captured their attention and you just sort of demanded that influence so effortlessly. And that was my aha moment that led me to where I am today. I've officially launched my company, Diana Cabrices Consulting, and the industry's first ever fractional chief evangelist offering. And I'm happy to dive further into that.
Please explain what that means. Before we do that, though, was there a moment where the aha moment or something that happened where it struck you to now's the time to officially take this leap of faith, so to speak?
100%. There's actually a few things at play there. I think the first thing is
besides, of course, the advisors saying, I want to hire you to do what it is you just said on stage because I'm not good at doing that.
Right. So one of the main factors there is, before COVID, you'd go to a conference and you'd have a room of technology vendors and advisors. And it was almost, you recognize a lot of people, which companies are which. After COVID, you walk into a conference and you're like, holy crap, what happened? The technology vendor just room has doubled in size. And to me, that was a big part of my shift was this is only going to become more of a competitive space. This is right now, my creative talent, my abilities are going to be even more attractive because to really have that competitive edge, you have to be creative. You have to be different. You have to have dynamic people at the front lines. And I just recognized, all right, there's a space here for helping these technology companies differentiate themselves. So that was definitely a driving factor of that aha moment. The second one was just naturally, as with any progression in a business, things change, companies grow, and you have to pivot. And the company I was with before had acquired a company last year. There was a lot of work to be done. I was working extremely long days and really neglecting my own personal life in many ways. And not to say that starting your own business is not going to mean you'll neglect your personal life, because that's definitely the case. But I realized I'm ready to hang my hat here. I think this next phase of growth for this company, there's some new leaders in the space. I think they're going to do an amazing job. I feel good about what I've done so far, and I'm ready to kind of branch out on my own.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can find some sense of balance between your personal life, your personal interests, and your professional life as you scale and grow this practice of yours. I will say I had an incredible conversation the other day with a business coach of sorts who in her own right was very, very successful as a, let's call her a practitioner, financial advisor, insurance aid professional. And I can't tell you how much I respect the decision that she's very intentionally made as it relates to the size and scope and clientele of her practice now, that she will only take on 13 clients. That is her maximum capacity. She's highly selective with who she brings on as a client. She has a very large personal commitment to being the CEO of her house with
Love
her
that.
husband, who's a physician, and I was just very enamored and just very, very, very much respect those tough decisions, because in business, right? You have a very much a marketing mind. You're very creative. You're highly motivated. You're self-driven, and all of those things. And it's hard to not just continuously want more.
Yeah.
It becomes this question of, well, what does more look like, and where do I want more in my life? Because I can't do it all.
You really can't. That is so true. I love that story. I have a similar mindset with my own balance of I will probably max out at 3 clients, maybe 4. I don't need to work with everyone. And I want to also prioritize the entire side of my business of content creation, continuing to build my brand, continuing to, put out content that reaches beyond the industry.
Yeah.
Because truly that's, an evangelist goes beyond just wealth tech. So I love hearing that story.
So let's talk about that. What
Okay.
To me, I think when you say 3 or 4 clients, that is to me, that's a very small number. One, two, what it means is you're doing an incredible amount of good things for the clients that you are serving. So let's start at ground zero. What does the beginning of this look like?
Yeah. So the beginning of the relationship with my clients, you mean?
With exactly the new clients in what your firm and what you are going to offer to your respective clients at this point.
Yep. So right now I am prioritizing opportunities with tech companies that really have the space for me to do what I'm best at. And here's what I mean by that. There are a lot of companies in the space that could probably use an evangelist, could use a voice and a personality and someone going out there and sort of being that charismatic torchbearer, as I like to say it, but they may not all be ready for it. And so when I look at these opportunities on my plate right now, I'm prioritizing them based on, well, do you have the infrastructure to support me? So I am a marketing mind, yes, and an evangelist is definitely a walking, talking form of content marketing, but I am not your CMO. And so, if I'm looking at companies that don't really have a marketing department or don't have that infrastructure, then I realize if I take this on, I'm going to bite off way more than I can chew. And I certainly never want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'm really big on that. Maybe it's partly imposter syndrome, but I'm really big on that. So I'm assessing the structure of the organization. Of course, the product itself is very important. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to be unique. It needs to be innovative and sleek. And, that will make it all the much easier to talk about and evangelize. But I have right now, I've launched 1 month ago. I have officially signed my first client. And to me, it was like a pinch yourself moment because they truly are a dream client. So if you've ever heard of WealthBox CRM for financial advisors, to me, the most tech forward, sleek CRM in the space, it was such a no-brainer, Scott, when they reached out that they have the infrastructure, they have the brand, they have the product. They just need more of that humanization to their brand. I've had a lot of other conversations. I've had to turn away some prospective clients simply because I realized you don't fit the model, or you're going to look at me to take on more than I really want to. Some people might call that crazy. Like, wow, you just launched and you're already turning away clients. Wow, you must really have it good over there. I'm not making any money yet. I would love to be making money. I'm still not making money yet. I will be very soon. But that's how much it matters to me to go about this the right way, to not say yes to every opportunity, and to really learn to be able to say no and to stay the course. When you have a vision, stay the course. I firmly believe it'll work out. Now, in 12 months from now, if it doesn't, I will pivot. But it's right now, and I really want to prioritize that balance.
good energy going your way. I doubt that'll be the case. I'm sure all good things. But very much respect anybody's discipline to stay in their lane, to stay true to who they are and what they're defining the core values of their business are and what they say is their definition of success, because that's left to interpretation.
Totally.
All right, let's go back a little bit and just, can you enlighten the audience on what content marketing is specifically? And let's unpack a few of the things that, if you may recall, you and I met because I attended your breakout session at the conference, Riskalyze there. Incredible job. Don't be so hard on yourself. And maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the information that you enlightened us all during that conference. But let's start with the core.
Yeah, let's do it. Content marketing. It is the main form of marketing moving forward and in today's space. So what I mean by that is it is your firm or your brand or your company's way of getting out your thought leadership, putting it out there into the marketplace, and allowing buyers, which today don't operate on any sort of linear path, but allowing them to find your content, consume your content at their own pace, on their own terms. And that is what I call sort of extending your emotional availability, which might sound silly, but for an advisor, right, you can't be everywhere all the time. You can't talk to every single prospect out there that's thinking about having an advisor. But you can start to form relationships with them in the form of content marketing, i.e., a podcast where you're expressing yourself, you're showing your human nature, your energy, your personality. It's now out there in the world, content marketing, for investors or potential investors to consume, to search for, and to start forming that relationship with you before you even meet them. So go ahead. I saw a pause there.
Well, I was just going to say, so give me some very, very rudimentary steps that I can take. So I'm not doing any of this now. I'm an advisor. A little bit, I get that. So let's use the analogy, Wealth Box, CRM. To me, the business is a licensing subscription based business, great business, great product, something very tangible that I can measure and I can market to that specifically. The more users I get, the more revenue we make, the more ultimately we are profitable and successful as a company.
Mm-hmm.
As an advisor, it becomes a little bit more like catching water.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. But how do I encapsulate what it is that I do, who it is that I am, the culture that I am, and I am as an enterprise, and what are some really beginning steps that I can take?
Yep. So first and foremost, understanding, who are you? What is your special sauce as an advisor? What do you bring to the table that's different from the advisor down the street? You need to be able to answer all of those questions before you can go out in the market and start producing a lot of content, because you need to be intentional about the content you produce, about the channels that you produce them on, and who you're even targeting. So if you're targeting millennials or, tech executives with complex compensation packages, well, do your research, understand where they're spending most of their time, i.e. LinkedIn, and formulate a process where maybe once a month or once a week, as you can work up to that, you're putting out a form of content, be it video or blog, whatever you're better at. There's never one answer. Video is obviously taking off and it's very, very important. But if you're a writer and that's what nourishes you as an advisor, by all means, write that blog post and write it in a way that speaks to your target client, to their pain points. Tech executives have complex packages, or, maybe they have ISOs and they have no idea what to do with it. There are a million things that you could write about that alone. Simple blog posts that you could write about that. Publish that on channels where they're hanging out. But again,
what's your take on content creation, of getting the content that's available already on the shelf with XYZ company, we don't need to specify them, versus really taking the time to author my own genuine content?
I think realistically, to scale and to be able to be consistent with content marketing, you need a mix of both. That's my honest opinion. Now, if you're a firm that is invested in a full-time content creator and you're paying that person and they know your expertise, like the back of their hand, you're in a really great position and you're paying them a great salary, awesome. You probably could get away with doing all of your content on your own. But even then, it takes a team. And when you look at some of these marketing providers, like Snappy Kraken, for example, it takes a huge team to put out what we put out. We have designers, we had copywriters, market researchers, analysts, and all of that together formulated our campaigns that were so successful. But even then, advisors would tell me, I put out the Snappy campaign, I got some great responses, but I put out this post about my family, and oh my gosh, I got 10 times more responses than I had ever gotten on Snappy's content. That is very telling that your personal content is always going to reign over any sort of automated canned content, but consistency trumps everything. So you can have all the content in the world. They say content is king. I like to say, well, consistency is queen. And you need that consistency. So I do think a blend of both is where most advisors are going to find success.
I love that. That's a fantastic takeaway. If content is king, consistency is queen.
Yep.
In the area of fitness, I use this example all the time, where consistency is, in my opinion, and I think you and I are probably on a similar page, more important than how much I do in a given workout. And as you probably know, in many cases, people go, I'm turning over a new leaf, right? It's a new me. I'm going to hit the gym and they go so hard out of the gate.
Yep.
They physically destroy themselves.
They burn out.
They burn out. They do too much, too quick. It's not realistic. It's not sustainable, as opposed to just going for a walk. Start by going for a 30-minute walk.
Yep.
Take a bite at a time. Elect to do something that you can consistently stick to. Anyways,
yep.
I digress. I love that.
Yeah, you're spot on. I have the same thought with fitness. So yeah, decide, who are you targeting? Where do they play? Okay, now you've formulated that. You have a good idea of that. But then look at all the different options, right? The blogs, the videos, the TikToks, which most advisors are probably not doing unless they're heavily focused on that next gen. And just find one or two activities that you can manage, and then think about a consistent schedule, whether again that's once a month or that's once a week. I would say once a week is most optimal to get some form of content out in the world. And the beauty of that is, if you were to say as an advisor, I need to post at least once a week. Well, in week 1, you can write an awesome blog post and that can go out. Week 2, you don't have to think of something completely new to talk about or start from scratch. You can repurpose that. You can make a video talking to the camera exactly about what you said in that blog post. And I think the biggest takeaway here is, not only do you need to have content going out, let's say on your website that helps SEO, for example, but you need to be able to take that content and break it down into smaller little bites. I like to call it easily digestible pieces of content, and get that out into the social media world as well.
If you were to, let's just presume, which I think most advisors, certainly established ones, are going to have some components. Maybe they have them all. But let's assume I have none. Do I start with brand identity first? Let's confirm that. I have a brand, I have an identity. Is it website first and then social media platforms, or in what order should I do this?
It really depends on your goals and how fast you're looking to grow. And I think there's not really one good answer to that. Although the website is the foundation to any marketing plan. And in going through that process of building a website, even if you're hiring somebody else, right, you have to go through that process with them. You almost, get to do a lot of that deep dive discovery that you mentioned, starting with step 1. So I think it's a good way to sort of strengthen that muscle, flex that muscle of who are we serving? What are we about? What's our special sauce? And then once you have that foundation laid, now you go out and you tell that story in 10 different ways across all these different platforms. You don't have to. You could certainly start there. But when people want to search and find credibility around you and there's no website to look back to, you have to think about the message that might send.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. Okay. So as we look forward into the future with content marketing, do you see any technology advancements, things that are happening, and even further, let's say 2 or 3 years down the road, how does this evolve?
Oh yeah. I firmly believe that media and creative are going to become table stakes when it comes to marketing. So what I mean by that is just engaging content, like I mentioned earlier, video being a very important element there, and content that is visually appealing. So the topic of finance and all of the subtopics there can obviously get complex for a lot of people. One amazing way to take a complex topic and, uncomplicate it, if you will, if that's a word, is to make it a visual, right? Create these cool, engaging visuals that get your point across in an easier to understand way. So video and visual documents, or visual graphics, if you will, I think those are going to trump any other forms of content as we move ahead. I also
What
think
advice can you give people so I'm on board with that. Sounds great, Diana. Love it. I get it. Video creation. Okay. Now I start thinking and processing so much about, it's like analysis paralysis.
Mhm.
Okay, I need to invest in all this equipment. I need to be so concerned with what this video looks like and what I say and how I feel. What is your response to anybody who has those reservations and just gets kind of paralyzed?
Keep it simple. I think one of the best tools any business owner can have right now to accomplish what I was just saying is pretty much the future of content is
Mhm.
Canva. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Canva. I don't know if you use it, Scott.
I am dangerously aware of it.
Okay.
So explain Canva.
Okay, Canva is basically your design platform. You can plug in any graphic, you can source media directly from the site through their galleries, and you can customize it to your brand, to your firm, and to whatever message you're trying to get out there. This isn't just hard-coded images. This is also video. They have a video editor tool as well. So essentially, it's just like the Chat GPT sort of AI that's very much taking over now, which certainly something we could talk about. That is going to be very helpful to advisors in creating content, sort of like an assistant. But Canva is almost that in the design form, right? I have this idea. I have no idea how I want to present it to the world. Well, you go on Canva, you search their galleries, and they're giving you a million design ideas through their own design assistant, which is based on AI. And it can help you immediately say, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to design this. And you didn't need to hire a designer to do that.
So it is intuitive?
It's very intuitive. Yep.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What about website development? Let's say I want to recreate my website. Canva has sources to help with website design as well?
You can certainly create graphics on Canva
Okay.
if you want to use them on a website. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so more or less, Canva would be a tool that helps me create visuals that would live on my website. Not that it
Yep.
helps to build the website, but it's all kinds of content creation in terms of visual imagery and videos.
Social video, you can create presentations on Canva. So when advisors, the
Wow.
whole creative and media side, yeah, it might be a little scary, but there are going to be more and more tools like Canva. Snappa is another one, for example, that are coming out to help you immediately, take an idea and turn it into a real design. The same with Chat GPT. You have some ideas around what you want to write, but you need something to just quickly get it in an organized way for you and a very engaging way for you to use.
So to this point, I'm very, very familiar with ChatGPT in the sense that I have digested a lot of conversation around it of experts that I listen to throughout various business paradigms, but I have not yet invested really any time in interfacing with the technology directly. Can we take a few minutes of what your experience has been as it relates to specifically what we're talking about here, both how advisors use it, but also from a content marketing standpoint?
Oh, 100%. So, from a content marketing standpoint, you could use ChatGPT to pretty much help you with any piece of content you want to put out in the world. So, for example, if you wanted to ask ChatGPT, what are the top 10 questions being asked around finance or personal finance? And it's going to spit back out at you 10 different questions that are highly searched online based on its intelligence and AI. And that is a basis right there for you to go out and create 10 different pieces of content around these items, in the future. Very powerful, because what you used to have to do to be able to do that, and you can still do, it's simple, is just go on Google and start typing a question about finance and see in that drop down, that automated drop down, what is coming up and what is ranking. That's basically telling you what people are searching. There's also a section on Google that tells you frequently asked questions or similarly asked questions that are popular and they're ranked high. Well, ChatGPT just takes out that whole process of having to go do all that research on your own in seconds. It does it in seconds. Me personally, I've used it to help me craft ideas for website copy. So, hey, I'm trying to, write a really good hook or hero text on my website. Here's what my business is about. What can you give back to me? Right. And it spits out some really meaningful words. And then I take those and I kind of put them in my own order and figure out how I want to present that. Or, hey, ChatGPT, I want to talk about the importance of an effective evangelist. What would be a good outline for me to start this blog post? Bam, within 5 seconds, it's given me an intro, a body of points, and an outro. And then I can take that and go deeper with my own blog post.
Wow, that is incredible. You think about just the immediate applications that an advisor can take from there, and us too. I mean, in my head, I'm spinning through about a dozen different questions that I would like to ask
Right.
ChatGPT to move forward with. That's amazing. An outside of the box question would be, so as an example, I think very much so we're impressing upon our advisors that more so than ever, somewhat so our products are becoming commoditized, right? The differentiator between an equity and fixed income, annuity, insurance product, it's a little bit is getting diluted for sure. And so what is it that I am doing to enhance the experience that I am providing my clients? Great question would be what are the top 10 experiences that boomers would be seeking today and hunger for?
There you go.
I'd love to know the answer to those questions, or certainly many of our advisors were. Or if your niche in your practice of you really want to work with this specific segment of people to figure out what it is that they would like to be doing and what their experience should be, would be a tremendous value add to any practice.
Yep. I absolutely agree. I love those examples. And I think I wonder if anyone's listening that they're going to go and start typing that into ChatGPT right now.
It's incredibly overloaded. I mean, you go
Yeah.
on there and it's like, sorry, we're busy right now. We're at our capacity. It's an incredible technology that will absolutely change the world. And we are in beta form.
I know. It's a little scary, It's like, okay, I'm scared of it, but I'm excited about it, and I know this is the very beginning of it all. So I think we'll see it in a lot more places. I think, Siri will quickly become powered by more of a similar form of Chat GPT. I think, who knows, even in the SEO space, right? What will Chat GPT do to SEO? Because now people are going to go to an AI assistant to give them answers versus search on Google and those rankings based on SEO, right? So there's a lot of questions and uncertainty.
There is. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to go back. When you went abroad and internationally, where were you residing at the time you embarked in your professional career?
I was in Barcelona, Spain.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, that was
How
pretty
long
awesome.
did you live there?
I stayed there for 2 years. Funny enough,
Okay.
I had a 3-month round trip plane ticket and I did not come back. I said, you know what? I love this too much. I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to teach English under the table, which that only took me so far. And then, that kind of got me into the remote work world. And on top of that, I've actually been working remotely my entire career in fintech, even before it was cool. Even before
Traveling
the
quite a bit.
pandemic.
Will your new role require you to travel as much?
Yeah, it will. So my
Yeah.
new business model is if you need me to speak at conferences on your behalf or go interview or, attend events, what have you, I'm your girl. Count on me. And that's a big part of my value prop, saving the CEO a lot of time. So the travel won't slow down anytime soon. But like I said, I'm in this phase of my life where I can afford it, right? I don't have kids. I'm not married yet. And I just feel like if there's a time to work that, it's going to be right now.
What does the definition of success look like for you 3 years from now?
Oh, I have a big vision, Scott. So that's a loaded question, but I will say, number one, I have grown my own personal brand. Let's call it 10x in the next 3 years. And that is Diana Cabrices talking about evangelism in the tech space and what it means to be an evangelist and why it's important and why companies should be paying attention to that. So that is one side of my business I am nurturing right now with content. And then the other side is I can look back and say, hey, I've supported, Wealthbox and some of the other companies that I might be taking on within these really cool categories. And I've been able to learn even more about the financial advisor model and as it stands and relates to technology. And I've been able to support more advisors. I think if there's a third thing, this one is sort of up in the air, but I've had a lot of thought around scaling this business model. And, as I look around me and I see other very talented voices in the industry, well, I can only take on 3 or 4 clients myself. What happens when 5, 6, 7 come knocking on the door and there's a wait list? There's an opportunity here to really turn this into more of an agency model where there's more evangelists and we're all sort of working within our own client verticals, but time will tell.
I love that. I love that you're paving really your own way and doing it Diana's way.
Yep.
Good for you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much for your time today. It was enlightening. You are a joy to be around and to communicate with and chat with. We really, really appreciate your time. And sincerely, I wish you all the best of luck and success in your endeavor. With that said, how would people engage with you if they were so inclined and you were so willing?
Yeah, well, there's a few different ways. So you can find me online on social media. I'm usually posting on Twitter or LinkedIn. My handle is just my first and last name, Diana Cabrices. That last name is loaded, but it's Cab, Rice, and then an S at the end. That's how I explain it. You can check out my website. I'll be posting more content there on the blog. And there's a lot of great engaging content there already that's beneficial to advisors. That's dianacabrices.com. Otherwise, you'll catch me at industry conferences. I'll be at the T3 conference in a few weeks and several others throughout the year. So there's many ways to engage. And Scott, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I hope that all of your listeners found this valuable and there's some takeaways there for them to get better.
Indeed. Cheers to that. And thank you for all those who have tuned in to the Optimized Advisor podcast. Till next time. Cheers. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment or review. Be sure to check us out on social media at Optimized Advisor Podcast. Till next time.